Okay, so let's take a look at this. We're going to do a quick tour of the portal, and we're going to set it up correctly. So the first thing we want to always understand, top right-hand corner, you have info@azuredirect.com. Okay, that's going to be, and you have CIE1, CIE2. That's really who your name is going to be. Next, what I've actually, and you're going to follow along with me too, so make sure that you click on some of these things too, so you can kind of get a feel. The more that you do, the better you learn. The next one is the feedback button. It's a little smile here. I'm going to let you know that, hey, just never click on that button again. This is the first and last time. I don't believe that anybody actually checks that feedback button box. So that's, and I worked at Microsoft for 5 years. I actually asked around. The next is the help button right next to it, top right-hand corner, the question mark. It's good when you need to do support and tickets, actually. It's just very simple. You can do a help and support. However, you know, from the Microsoft's point of view, we actually want you to be working with a partner. Actually, it's a lot quicker. They can give you better answers quicker. The Microsoft help and support, you put in a ticket. You know, you're talking to 3 people before you actually get to a U.S. based person. It can be very difficult to get what you need, but this is where you would do it. Okay. Next, I want you to click on the gear icon in the top right-hand corner. This is where you the big finger that I have right here, gear icon. And there's 2 things in here that are really important to understand. One is security. So when I click on this downward chevron, that's the arrow. When you hear me say downward chevron, that's the arrow. Inside of here, what we want to look at first and foremost is we want to select, and we're not going to do it for this lab. I just want to show this to you. You always want to select about 30 minutes. Okay. I tried 15 for a long time, but in a lot of instances, you need to go search for, let's say, docs.microsoft.com. You need to figure out a code, a commandlet, something. And if it's stuck at 15 minutes, it gets really annoying. Keep re-signing back in. 30 minutes seems to be a good thing, especially if you're working in there, and then just for security. Okay. Now, the next thing, this is really important here. I want you to click on where it says choose your default mode for the portal menu, and we're going to click on docked. Okay. And there's a reason we clicked on docked, okay? When I click on dock, Sham, you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay.
My kids are running around here.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so I'm doing docked, and then I'm choosing a theme. I like to kind of do the dark theme, blue, because what happens is this menu on the left-hand side is so important, and it's just so much easier. And this is the pro tip number 1 today. It's just so much easier to actually maneuver through Azure. Okay, otherwise you come back to this home page, you're kind of like, where am I going? It's just so much easier. And then the last thing I'm going to mention to you is where it says enable pop-up notifications. I typically turn that off. And the reason why is sometimes there's an error in one of your machines. There's a ghost in the Azure portal, comes in, keeps giving pop-up an error, and while you're working in it, it can be very difficult to actually manage. Okay, so we have that there. Perfect. Let's go ahead and X out of there. Okay. Now the next icon I want you to click on is the bell icon here. And this is really important. It's actually my favorite button of all in Azure, and I use this all the time. This is where it tells us, and as you can see in mine, I've tried to delete a few things and it said, nope, you can't delete it, et cetera, but it gives you notifications. But also, when you're deploying an instance that actually takes a while to deploy, you can go over here and check on the status of the deployment. And then when it's finished, it'll give you a link directly to that resource. So for example, see how this says deployment succeeded? I can easily just go straight to that resource by here. So this button up here, man, I love this. I check it all the time. It really helps me validate what I'm doing. Okay, the next one over here is the directory and subscriptions. So you're wondering, what is this about? Well, look, we have different subscriptions in here. So I can either go back and forth, go into a different directory. Some people look at it as, sometimes you want to have subscriptions based on workload. Okay, and what I mean by that is, let's say you have a SQL workload, right, that is crunching 1,000 bits of data, right, and it's going 3 hours a day, and it's separate. However, you might want to turn it on for an extra 2, depending on the season. The problem with that is if you have cost barriers in place on a subscription, that might put you over the limit, and then all of your other resources get paused. And you got to be a little careful with that, and we'll show you a little bit about that. But I always say that some of those ones that can really just create your own subscription for that particular instance, and then really tighten that down, right, with access control. Okay, so I just want to show you this. Okay, now let's exit out of there. And the next one I want you to click on, and I actually want you to click on this one, is the Cloud Shell. Okay, so Cloud Shell, when we click on it, it's basically going to say you have no storage mounted. We're not going to touch this right now. But the reason why I'm going to show you this is we have to do some commands later down in the road, down in this our lab. Okay, and PowerShell is basically what resides underneath this nice, beautiful portal that we see. So you could do everything in PowerShell. You could script everything out if you wanted to. However, the portal actually makes a lot of things much easier and is much different than like AWS. They really make it really intuitive inside this portal. But we're going to have to use this later down the road. So I just want to show you where this is. When I say, okay, time to move to PowerShell, you know where to go. Okay, so let's exit out of that. And now we're going to go back to one of the most important buttons. I want you to go along with me here. Click on the search function. See the search bar on the very top? Now I want you to just type in AVA. First three letters. Now, when you do that, you're going to see all of a sudden availability sets, because that's what I was looking for actually in the availability sets. All you have to do here is just type in the first three letters of something. But what's beautiful about this search bar, and I love it, is because it does three things for you. One, it tells you the services that you might be looking for. Number two, it tells you the marketplace. Now, what a marketplace is, it's Azure has allowed independent software vendors to create things that help Azure move quicker, faster, better, okay? More cheaper. There's so many different ways to do this. So the cool thing is you can click on something in Marketplace that might be applicable to your availability set and use it. Most of them are paid for, some are free, okay? But then the last thing is the third thing it does for you, it tells you the documentation, okay? Documentation, this is awesome, right? Documentation, regions, just some things that you can click on if you want to do it. Why don't we exit, choose X, right? And then just type in one more just to show you, VIR. I want you to type in VIR. When you type in VIR, you're going to get virtual machines now, right? See all those virtual, anything that starts with VIR, okay? Awesome, right? We can easily navigate to something. So this can be your best friend. You can look for things and it's really awesome. Okay, we're going to go ahead and exit out of that. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the top five buttons that you're going to be using today and forever. Okay, so we're going to do this. So a lot of folks always say, okay, I want to create a resource. So the first one, the plus button, is where you kind of start out, okay, with when you start creating things. And in here, it kind of shows you can search the marketplace by literally typing in AVA, okay? Oh, look at that, availability set comes up. We could do that, right? Or we can go down to the category. Whoops. Hold on. Okay, sorry, mistake. Or you can go down to these categories. So let's say we want to go to networking, right? And then we can see inside of networking what's available. Okay, so we can see all, we can see featured, just different things. This is create a resource. Okay. All right, the next one I want to show you here is the dashboard. Now, this is pro tip number 2, okay? So when you click on your dashboard, it may look very different than mine in here, okay? And the reason is because I can edit it to see everything that I want to see, okay? So when you look at mine, you see where it says all resources? That means everything that's inside of my tenant, all the things, everything. But then you see resource groups. Well, these are groups of resources that I have, so I can click on any one of these. I can do a video player, I can see standard time, security metrics, a lot of different things. Now, what I want you to do is find an area that's blank, okay? And I want you to right-click, and when you right-click, you're going to see this thing called Edit. And I want you to click on Edit. Okay. When you click on Edit, you're going to see now a tile gallery. These are things that we can bring in very easily by literally just doing a click and drag. Okay, we can easily do that. We can do quick tasks. We can bring them in there, and we can manipulate our dashboard to what we feel is, you know, a great view. Okay. Now, when you're done with manipulating the dashboard, all you do is just push save, and boom, that's what you get to see. I like this as actually my default screen, honestly. I just like this. I just know where I'm going. I have that, so that's good. Okay. Now, let's look at the next one. This is probably the one you'll use the most. I call it the hamburger button because it looks like it's got a bun, a burger, and a bun, right? Just this little three things, and it's all services. All services bases everything on categories. So this is easier to search for things. So for example, I wanted to search for virtual machines. I know it says it right there, but I go down to compute, okay? Now when you hit compute, everything that's in compute is right here. Very simple. Okay, click on it. Very simple, right? If I want to go down to networking, I can click in networking and look for what's inside of networking that I want to do. If I want to do AI and machine learning, bot services, I can go here. But look at this too. Inside of all services, this button, you get a lot of free training, right? Create a bot service. A lot of this stuff is really cool, okay? So you can actually do that. I'm going to go back. Now, pro tip number 3, when you're in all services and you click on AI machine learning, and let's say I went and typed in VIR for virtual machine, I'm going to get nothing because I have it pinned to the AI category. So what I want to, this pro tip number 3, always go back to overview, and then you can type in VIR, and then boom, you get everything that you need. You only know that trick when you sit there and you're like, why doesn't everything come up? So there you go. Okay, so that's the hamburger. Now let's talk about the waffle, okay? So all resources are here. So when you click on the waffle, it can go and show you everything that is inside of your tenant, okay, that you're allowed to see, okay? So in mine, I have this dev test lab, I'm playing with. I'm trying to figure out how that can actually make that work for people. But we're going to be, we're not using any of these, but these are all the resources. You're going to find that your resources are all going to start filling up as we deploy different things. It's going to be really cool. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to touch on actually is resource groups. Okay. And this is, each one of you actually have already been assigned an actual resource group. Okay. So you'll have, so when we say select a resource group, you'll select the one that's assigned to you. Okay, so you'll be CIE 1, CIE RSG. All right. Okay.